Thank you for purchasing a DF404 Hyperextension bench. Your DF404 will come in one box. Everything inside should be bubble wrapped or contained within another box. First, lay out all your parts. You should have a lower cross member, 6 L brackets, a leg hold down, seat frame, feet, cross member, pads, rollers, front and rear support posts, a triangle flange, hardware, and instructions. We're going to assemble this bench from the ground up, starting with the lower cross member. The triangle welded to the lower cross member will become the back of the bench. Next, you're going to lay the feet on each side of the cross member, lining up the 2 holes with the corresponding 2 holes in the flanges. Grab the matching triangle flange and sandwich the back foot between both flanges. Grab your hex head M12 bolts and thread them through a washer, the triangle flange, the foot, then through the triangle flange on the lower cross member. Cap them off with another washer and nut, hand tight for now. Bolt the front foot directly to the front flange with a washer on each side, also hand tight for now. Next, we're going to install the 2 L brackets on the lower cross member. Make sure that the long part of the L is facing up and the short part is facing toward the back of the bench. Bolt the L brackets to the lower cross member with washers on each side, hand tight. With the first pair of L brackets in place, it's time to install the rear support post. The rear support post has a hole pattern for the leg hold down tube on the top, and that should face forward on the bench. Place the rear support between the 2 triangle flanges and secure it in place with M12 bolts. Again, hand tight. Now we're going to install a pair of L brackets to the rear support post. Make sure that the short part of the L faces toward the ground and the long side faces toward the front of the bench. The front support post has a flange on the top that is welded to a mitered angle cut. The sharper acute angle goes toward the front of the bench. Slide the front support tube into the L brackets on the lower cross member and bolt it into place hand tight. Now it's time to install the L brackets to the front support tube. Point the long side of the L to the back of the bench and the short side toward the floor. With all 6 L brackets in place, it's time to install the upper cross member with all 4 remaining hex head M12s. Slide the upper cross member into the long side of the L brackets, then thread 1 bolt through each side before threading through the remaining bolts. Once they're all in, cap them off with washers and nuts, hand tight. Now that your frame is fully constructed, it's time to tighten all the nuts and bolts. It's important to position the bench either on flat ground or where it will sit in your gym before this step. When you tighten it down, the bench conforms to the floor. No 2 floors are the same, so if you tighten your bench and then move it, you run the risk of setting it uneven on the new surface and wobbling. First, tighten the 4 bolts holding the feet to the lower cross member, then tighten everything else. All Deltech fitness products come with lock nuts. Lock nuts have a nylon insert embedded into the top of the nut, and this keeps the nut tight on your bench longer. You start by threading the bottom of the nut on a bolt, and then tighten through the insert. With everything tightened up, it's time to move on to the leg hold down assembly. Start by threading the tighten down knob onto the leg hold down. Only go in a couple of turns so it isn't poking through the inside of the tube. Next, thread on the pull pin and tighten it down until the head of the pin is flush with the pull pin barrel. Once those are in, slide it onto the rear support post, and then tighten down the tighten down knob to take out any wobble. Next, we're going to install the roller pads. Push the roller pads onto the leg hold down tube until you can see the tube poke out. Now we're going to retain the roller pads with mushroom caps. The best tool for this job is a dead blow hammer. They are inexpensive and available at any hardware store. Gently tap the cap until it's fully seated into the tube. If you don't have a dead blow, you can make do with a small dumbbell. Just whatever you do, don't use a framing hammer or something smaller than the head of the cap, because you can easily crack it. To make sure the caps are fully seated, you can pull back the roller tube about an inch. The last two M12 bolts in the bolt pack are carriage bolts. Carriage bolts have a square boss under their relatively flat head to keep themselves from spinning in a tube. Grab the seat frame and the carriage bolts and set it on the front support post. The handles should face the front of the bench. Drop the carriage bolts into the square holes on the seat frame and poke them through the holes of the flange. Add a washer and nut to both, and then tighten them down. Make sure to keep the seat frame straight. With the seat frame tight, go ahead and bolt on the seat pads. The seat pads have a rolled edge that are intended to face toward the front of the bench. Line up the two bolt holes on each pad, and thread in the short M10 bolts with a washer loosely until they are all in. If you tighten down one bolt before getting the other in, you might have a hard time lining it up. Repeat for the other side and tighten down with a 17mm wrench. Finally, install your Deltech Fitness decal to let everyone know you have a piece of quality equipment. Weighing in at almost 70 pounds, the DF404 delivers rock-solid performance that should last a lifetime. Thank you for choosing Deltech Fitness.